Welcome back to Local 4 Plus Live, everyone. I hope you got all the news you needed to get your day started, as I mentioned. And as I also mentioned at the top of the show, we are going to talk about burnout and finding your joy. And I promised you that I was going to have a guest as well, because we might all be experiencing some burnout coming, back from the holidays, the start of the new year. We are officially in winter. Winter is not coming, winter has arrived, as they say. There are a lot of dark and gloomy days, and that can be rough to endure. I definitely feel a change in my mood when I haven't seen the sun for 3 or 4 days. So I want to introduce you all to Caitlin Brown from Mindful Detroit, who is a yoga therapist, but you are also a licensed clinical social worker, correct? Did I have that correct?
Macro social
Macro
workers.
social worker,
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for being with us, first and foremost. So I found a definition for burnout, and I want to tell you what I found. I want to know what you think about it. So, okay, here it is. Burnout is a state of emotional, mental, and often physical exhaustion brought on by prolonged or repeated stress. Though it's often caused by problems at work, it can also appear in other areas of life, such as parenting, caretaking, and romantic relationships. So from a mindfulness perspective, is this accurate?
Yeah, I think it's a very good definition, and I like that it talks about burnout not just, at the workplace, but that can happen in caretaking. It can happen in a cause that you're part of. And I also think it's really important to mention there's 3 components or dimensions of burnout.
Okay.
So one of them is exhaustion, which is already in the definition, and
Like physical exhaustion?
Yeah, physical,
Okay.
but also emotional, mental, that brain fog, and then also depersonalization, which is like cynicism, detachment. It manifests often in interpersonal conflict, right? Like having conflict with coworkers or maybe customers or patients that you're working with. And then the third aspect is a sense of like hopelessness, of feeling ineffective. And so I think mindfulness can help us address all of those areas. One, mindfulness being just being present in the moment without judgment, just giving a brief definition there. So just being aware when we're feeling these states in these areas. Like sometimes we just push through the exhaustion, we ignore the exhaustion. So recognizing, wait, I'm feeling really tired, or I'm feeling kind of irritable with my spouse or my child, or recognizing when we're feeling hopeless. And then from there, mindfulness can help us begin to make changes and shift. So starting to do things like mindful listening to help communicate better with people in our lives, to hopefully ease some of that conflict, or recognizing when we're feeling hopeless, but also recognizing our joys, the small things in our life, the little everyday pleasures. I think the phrase "stop and smell the roses" really embodies and gets to this idea of mindfulness helping to counter the burnout and counter kind of the drudgery or the darkness of winter.
Of
like
all of it.
These little small things that we can find in our everyday.
I like how you said even just giving yourself permission to feel it, because I'll be honest with you. So Tuesday night, I was like, I'm tired. I was really tired. And I had about 3 emails that I wanted to send. And I was like, no, the truth is I'm tired. I don't even think I'm going to be effective in these emails. And I went to bed at like 8:30.
Yeah.
And I just allowed myself to sleep. And I think that's probably the first time in my life that I've ever done that. But I was really like, I'm truly tired. So I gave myself permission to do that. So let me ask you this. Is creating or having joy an ongoing practice?
Yes, absolutely. I think sometimes we get really caught up in like waiting for the big vacation or the weekend, and those are important, right? Those are important times to reset and recharge, but also finding times for joy and self-care in every day, like through our work day while we're at work. Like what are the little things that spark joy, that give us pleasure, like smell of coffee in the morning, that first sip of coffee, those little things like that, that could be really important.
Okay, so work on it on a consistent, it's not a one-time event, and it's not tied to the big vacation or the weekend or whatever else we might be looking forward to. So let's talk about this. How much does physical activity and your activity level play into your mental well-being and even being able to be present?
Yeah, I think definitely physical activity is very important to our mental well-being. Our brain and our body are interconnected. They affect one another. You know, when we do physical activity, it releases endorphins. It positively affects the brain. And also, I think it's important to bring joy into this, is finding joyful movement for us, that it's going to look different for everyone. I think sometimes we feel like, oh, I should be going to the gym or I should start running, but maybe for you it's walking with your dog, maybe it's swimming, maybe it's chair yoga, right? You know, everybody's physical activity could look different.
Right. So tell me about the yoga events that you have.
Yeah, so I do a variety of different things. So in yoga therapy, I work one-on-one usually with people around a specific maybe health or mental health issue and using the tools of yoga to address it. Or maybe it's in a small group where people are dealing with a similar concern, like yoga for cancer or for addiction, things like that. And then I also offer community yoga classes. So I teach in the summer, like yoga in the park, events like that. Right now I'm doing a free community mindfulness session in a cafe where it's more, you know, it's in a seating area of a cafe. So we're doing just seated meditation, maybe some chair yoga, and just exactly what we're talking about, helping people kind of get through the winter.
Yeah,
So
we need all the help that we can get.
Yeah.
And I was joking before we got started, and I was saying, of course, we had sun yesterday and today, and that's what I'm talking about, gloomy days. But we know that they're around the corner, and they really affect our mood, right? So let's talk more about the things and the stresses that cause the burnout, right?
Yeah.
We can't always remove them. Can we truly just manage them? Or do these things get to a certain point where you're like, you need to make a life change?
Yeah.
How does that work?
I think it can go both ways. I think there are definitely things that we do need to manage sometimes. Like there's things I think about in our life that bring us both great joy and stress. Like maybe our children, you know, aspects of our job that we love and aspects of our job that are stressful. So there's like multiple sides, and I think mindfulness can really help us get that perspective of see, okay, this might be really hard right now, but things are going to change and evolve over time. And I think, again, the importance of small changes, like noticing those small joys and maybe making small shifts in our life can have a big impact long term. Like if we feel like, oh, I don't have an hour to work out or take a yoga class, but 5 minutes of yoga, doing it regularly, or just taking 1 minute to mindfully drink your coffee and slow down, you know, those can have big impacts over time. And yes, there can be times where maybe the bigger, you know, change is needed, but there also, if you're feeling like, oh, that feels too overwhelming right now, starting small. Yeah.
The little things do make such a big difference, right? It's like, you saw me move my tea thermos, everybody sees it on Live in the D as well. Like that brings me so much joy. I make some chai, you know what I mean? Put a little stevia in there. That's my thing, and that helps me. And it seems so small. And sometimes I'm like, am I fooling myself? Or am I like creating this in my head? But then I think, if it works, it works.
Yes,
right? So what difference does it make? Let me enjoy it. Okay, so I want to circle back to an article that we discussed at the start of the show with my producer, Kari, and we talked about, you know, she had seen the article, I sent it to her last night, about this experiment that the woman did with the Razor phone. So how much do you think that technology, we're talking social media, constantly being connected, how does all of this contribute to us feeling exhausted?
I mean, I think it definitely can, but I think with social media and with everything, it's not like all or nothing. But definitely, you know, like she mentioned in the article, there can be this FOMO, this fear of missing out, which can cause some anxiety. And there's also, like you mentioned with an Apple Watch, like being constantly connected, and there's, it's sometimes termed urgency culture, that we are expected to instantly respond because we're so connected and we're always getting notifications, and that pressure can be exhausting, and just the constant barrage of information that we're getting from so many sources. And, you know, I think, again, being able to slow down and being able to say, I can get some like mindfulness to help us get perspective and respond wisely rather than react automatically. That like, oh, I got to respond right away. Of like, do I really need to respond to this right now? You know, that's a question I try to ask myself every day, especially with like emails. We get so many of like, is this urgent, or maybe it can wait till later today or tomorrow or later in the week, and just trying to see what do I actually need in this moment.
Yeah, and I mean, you want to do a good job too. So part of the mindfulness, even in a professional setting, is that you want to respond accurately. You want to make sure you're getting your point across, and that just doesn't happen instantaneously, right? You need a moment to think, and that's, I think that I can speak for myself, part of the exhaustion and the angst comes from feeling like I have to get back right away.
Yeah.
And the expectation, right, Kari? Because you were talking about that. It's the expectation of feeling like I have to do this immediately. And people get offended. I've had friends be extremely irritated with me because I don't text back in what they deem to be an appropriate amount of time. And then a friend of mine teased me. She was like, I think you respond in your brain and then you actually think that you responded to me. And it's like, it's not that. It's not that at all.
I've done that.
Have you done that?
I have done that too.
I've typed the text out and just didn't hit send. And I'm like, well,
Kari, I didn't even type
find
it out. She thinks that I responded to her in my head, and that how you think telepathically you will let the message get across. Obviously she's being sarcastic, but I'm just not like her, you know, and can respond as quickly. So it's just, that's a huge sense of stress, I feel like, that a lot of us go through. It's like constantly feeling connected. And the connected part is fine. You can reach me, but then if I don't get back to you as quickly as you might want, that can be an issue. So now you have a quick technique to teach us, and Kari is going to jump in this. We're all in. We're ready, okay, to help us get centered. What is it and how does it work?
So we're going to try a breathing technique from yoga, and it's called bee breath, Brahmari Pranayam in Sanskrit. And it's a very simple breathing technique that involves some sound. So I invite you, it might seem a little silly, but just try it, have fun.
Okay.
And this is a great one to do with kids too. Like, can really, what it helps do is shift our nervous system away from that fight or flight response to what's sometimes nicknamed the rest and digest response, the parasympathetic part of our nervous system. So it helps generally calm us down, although different people could have different reactions. And there's been some research studies on this breath that show that it helps lower blood pressure and helps lower stress. So what we do...
So we all need this.
Yes,
Let me pull my sleeves up and get comfortable here. All right.
I didn't
ready,
stretch.
Kari?
Yeah.
So
We're just, you could do this seated, standing. If you're watching this, join in.
Join in.
Yeah, so getting comfortable, maybe standing or sitting tall. And we're just going to inhale through our nose and exhale and make a humming or buzzing noise through closed lips. Like,
what should that sound like?
Keep going.
Am I breathing out while I'm humming?
Yep, so that's your exhale. You're breathing out through your nose as you're doing the buzzing or the humming.
Okay.
And again, it takes a few rounds to get used to it, so don't worry if it feels a little awkward at first.
It kind of felt good, to be honest. Okay, let's do it one more time.
We'll try it again.
Okay.
So inhaling.
just for the record, very nice harmony.
I agree. I was thinking the same thing.
Very
that's crazy.
sounded
And it's
beautiful.
really lovely, like in a large group of people, and everyone starts doing it.
Right.
And we do it, 10 rounds or more. You could do it, and it really, I did it before I came on here. Just to kind of settle and calm. It can be nice to do before bed if you're having trouble sleeping. So
that felt good. Like I felt it like in my chest.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. So, not to get too technical, but it connects with the vagus nerve, which helps calm our nervous system down. It's one of the biggest nerves in our body, connects our brain to our body, our heart rate, our respiration, and part of it, a branch of it, goes into our vocal cords. And so when we hum, or we make this buzzing noise, or if you think about when you really like something and you go, like that tasted really good, all of those sounds kind of give us this rest and digest relaxation response.
Okay, so we're giving these responses that are actually natural to us.
Yes,
like you just said, like when you say, that looks good, or that tastes good. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. How do you feel, Kari? I'm gonna do that on my way home.
I feel fairly relaxed.
Good.
Which is good. I'm usually news. I'm scared every time before I do this, so this is good.
Yeah.
I do have a quick question for you though.
Okay.
All right. So you do yoga. That's your job, right? So when you're ready to chill, do you like go like listen to like hard rock or something? Like how do you, you know what I mean? 'Cause, like it's one of those things where it's like if that's my job, then like when I'm trying to relax, going back to my job mindset isn't necessarily the first thing I do. So I was just wondering, how does that work for you?
I mean, I love yoga, even though I teach it and I do it for work. So I do practice yoga and meditation every morning, like first thing when I wake up, and it really helps me set and start my day. But I also love, you know, riding my bike. I find that really relaxing, or going for a walk. Like even in the cold, in the winter, just like that cold, fresh air of being mindful of like kind of wakes me up, and I'm like, I know I'm alive right now.
Yeah.
It's 15 degrees outside, but okay, I'm finding the joy in this of like, I am feeling alive. And so those kind of things I do to supplement the yoga as well. But yeah, no, totally get what you mean.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I mean, I think that when people go to practice yoga, they're there for a reason, right? I don't feel like I've ever been to a yoga class kind of like a workout class, different, like, oh my gosh, let me just get through this, as if it's a chore to get through. I feel like the approach that people take in their yoga practice is a lot different. Like, I need this, and I'm really glad to be here. So do you feel like that makes it easier for you to teach?
Yeah, and I think, people come for all different reasons and different ways that bring them there. Some people do kind of want that workout, which is definitely, it's not necessarily the way I teach. It's not my approach. Mine is definitely more of the meditative and calming and introspective type of yoga that I teach. But just help people shift their mindset, and I can see a big difference of people afterwards and saying, oh wow, I feel differently. Yeah,
which is awesome. Which is great. So tell us about Mindful Detroit and your offerings and how people can connect with you.
Yeah, so first people can find me on Instagram. I'm at Mindful Detroit, and also my website is mindfuldetroit.com. And so you can find all of my different events and offerings there, such as the one-on-one yoga therapy I mentioned. You can book sessions through my website. You can also see the free community mindfulness event that I have on Wednesday nights. And then I also teach social work continuing education workshops, so helping social workers learn more about these topics. So I have like a pre-recorded webinar on my website. And I do employee wellness workshops too. So often businesses will hire me to come in and teach yoga or mindfulness or talk about burnout to their employees.
That's interesting. And I like how you said you also teach it to social workers, you said, ways to connect with. I love how those things are intersecting now. That I don't feel like they did before. How's that kind of playing out? Because you're both.
Yeah. I think more and more there's awareness in the mental health field that our body and our mind are connected, that we can't just, talk therapy alone often can't get at some of issues that people are dealing with, especially around trauma, that involving the body and bringing the body into it can help us heal in different ways and resolve things that perhaps just talking them through can't resolve. And that's not to say not to do those other methods. Definitely, taking your drugs that your doctor prescribed, using talk therapy, but what's called complementary and alternative medicine that yoga and mindfulness fall under are being researched more and more and looked at more and more to help us with burnout, trauma, stress, all of these different things we're dealing with. And another really exciting thing is I teach part-time at Wayne State. And Wayne State started a yoga and mindfulness minor for undergrads.
Wow.
So students can minor in yoga and mindfulness and learn them both more in depth, and then how do they integrate that into whatever profession they're going into.
I like that. That's very interesting and very forward-thinking on the part of Wayne State.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, Caitlin Brown, thank you so much for being with us. Mindful Detroit on Instagram, That's your website, mindfuldetroit.com. Check her out. We thank you for teaching us. Tell us the name of that breathing technique again.
It was called bee breath. So
Bee
think
breath.
of humming or buzzing like a bee. And I'm on YouTube as well, and you can find a YouTube video. If you search
Nice.
Mindful Detroit bee breath, I have like a 3-minute video on how to do it.
Nice. Now, if Kari and I start doing the bee breath at the start of Local 4 Plus Live every morning, you will know why.
You already know what it is.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
We'll be
you.
right back.